Okay, so we really haven't configured TypeScript yet, right? We've just been using the out-of-the-box settings. I mean, I guess we've been using watch mode, which you have to turn on. But otherwise, we haven't really touched our tsconfig.json. But there's a lot to touch in here. And the first thing I want to talk about is actually how to tell TypeScript only a subset of files that we want it to compile. Maybe we don't want it to touch every single file that we create. This will be quick, but I just want to show you an example of this. There's a couple of options, and the first one is to use an option called files. Now, I'm on the documentation here. Let me just show you how this is set up here. I'm on the tsconfig section of the docs, so you can go to docs. And then if you scroll down, it's kind of hidden, but under project configuration, tsconfig reference. So this is going to give us, up top at least, a link to every single one of the settings, one of the options that we can change. So things like, all the different checks that TypeScript will or won't perform. We'll get to that later on in this section. But for now, I want to focus on this one called files. So if you click it, it over-scrolled a tiny bit, but this is what we want. It says, this allows us to specify an allow list of files to include in the program. And the way that this works is that it's not actually part of the compiler options. If we go back to our tsconfig.json, this, starting from here, right, this entire chunk, compiler options, extends all the way down to right here. So a lot of people might make the mistake of trying to put the files option in here, and it's invalid. It's gonna complain right now because I don't have a comma, but if I did put it in there, eventually it would complain to me. I might need to save the file. There we go. It complains. It says unknown compiler option. So this is actually an option that we put outside of the compiler options because it's a top level option. So the way that it works is that we list out all the files we want TypeScript to include. So this would be best if we had a smaller project or a smaller group of files that we wanted it to include. We don't need to list, or we'd only need to list a couple. In this example, let's say I want it to let's make a new file in here called don'ttouch.ts, and we can just leave it empty. That's fine. And right now, of course, as we've seen, let me just save my tsconfig. When I run tsc here, we get a JavaScript file for every single TypeScript file, .ts file, that TypeScript can find. And that would also include any nested directories, just anything it can find in this directory or down, it's going to compile. But if I provide the files option, I can say, hang on a minute. Now we've got to use double quotes. This is JSON in here. It's tsconfig.json, so single quotes are invalid. If I can even type them, it will complain and remind me. Property keys must be double quoted. Okay, so we add this files in, and then I can set it to a list of whatever files I want it to include. And let's say I only want farmstand and index.ts. Okay, so now I'm going to run tsc again, and there we go. Now I called out the specific files. Anything else will be ignored by TypeScript. So this is one option of saying, here's what I want you to include. But in the next video, I'll show another solution to this that's a little bit broader. There's two other properties we can use, or two options called include and exclude. But files is great if you just want to list out manually the files you want TypeScript to compile.